Once lost an entire year of profit, almost went bankrupt because I misunderstood one insurance requirement. It happened fast and it hit hard, and it taught me just how easy it is to overlook this part of business. Welcome to Entrepreneurship Through Franchising, a show about kicking down your cubicle wall with ETF and getting honest insights from experts who guide new franchise owners. Hey, I'm Ty, and on today's show, what every future business owner needs to know about risk, coverage, and compliance before they invest. Because getting this wrong after launch can be catastrophic. Our guest is Wade Millward, founder and CEO of Rikor Insurance. He helps owners spot the hidden traps inside of business insurance long before they sign. Wade's work is focused on solving the exact problem that blindsided me and so many other first-time business owners: the gap between the coverage you think you have and the coverage you have, and how a franchise system's clarity around risk can protect you from the kind of hit that I took. All right, welcome, Wade. I am super excited to have this conversation, and this is a topic that I think, just to frame this up, we're talking about insurance, and that sounds super boring, and so don't jump off yet, because it is a lot of times something that I think small business owners in general, just kind of hit the snooze button on, and they think, I'll 100%. Deal with that when it's a problem. But insurance is a huge thing that you need to be paying attention to, regardless of whether or not you're buying an existing business, you already have a franchise that you're operating, or you're thinking about becoming a franchise owner. You need to understand what the risk and what the brand's system around insurance is. This is such a critical thing. So welcome, Wade. Thanks for joining us, man. I really appreciate you making some time.
Yeah, appreciate it, Ty. Thanks so much for having me, man.
All right, man, we're going to kick it off with a softball here because boring, right? I mean, I'm sure you hear that a lot. You may even have to say that to people when you sit down at a table with them at a networking event or something. So just high level, how in the world did you get yourself into insurance? Because you don't look like a boring guy.
I appreciate that. I don't think I'm a boring guy. You can see I got all
You're
my swag
up.
going on. I'm ready to go, man. This is my podcast. No, this is my normal attire. But yeah, I don't think I'm a boring guy. Anybody you speak to in the insurance industry will tell you the same thing. We fall into the space. Nobody wakes up one day, I want to be an insurance professional. My grandfather was in insurance. My dad's in insurance. I worked for my dad. I didn't have a plan B, Ty. I didn't go to college. Right. I didn't want to do college. Yeah. Like, that wasn't for me. I just started selling insurance. And 20 years later, here I am. I started my own company, Rikor, which focuses on solving franchise insurance problems. So that's how I fell into the space, man.
Yeah. And that's specifically kind of, we're going to talk about is about the problems that not all businesses have around franchise or around totally. Insurance, but specifically around franchising, what that can look like, and how smart brands are educating their franchisees around how to make sure you're properly insured. Now, so most people just kind of treat this as a thing to check on the box, right? You got a list when you're either starting a business or buying a business. I got to be insured, right? But from your perspective, why is that kind of a dangerous mindset as a business owner? Just see insurance as another box to check.
Yeah, it's extremely dangerous, and that is the common mindset, unfortunately. I think the big box insurance companies of the world that you see on TV all the time, and I'll name a few, the Geicos and some of the other ones that kind of make jabs at the insurance industry. They've made light of it, to be honest. 15 minutes or less will save you 15%.
That's right.
Right. And what they've done is they've commoditized insurance. And so now we have consumer mindsets coming into a commercial space. They're looking to become an entrepreneur. They're looking to buy a business, to actually build a business. Why? Because they want financial freedom. But they have a consumer mindset because Geico told them it's supposed to be cheap and fast.
Yeah.
It's extremely damaging. And then all of a
Yeah.
sudden we come in there, it's like, it's actually not very cheap and it's actually not very fast because it's commercial insurance and it's actually very, very complicated. And so that's why education is so critical for new business owners, new entrepreneurs. And that's why it's so important for franchisors to support the initiative because it helps them understand why insurance is important, how it actually protects their business, what types of insurance you actually need. And guess what it does? The moment you start educating franchisees, they start to become educated, enlightened, informed, and now
Yeah.
they can make good, educated decisions. And it removes all frustration and all friction through that buying insurance buying process. And so that's some of the stuff that we've come across with
Yeah.
franchisees in this insurance experience.
Yeah, man. That's and just my story. I've had a couple of like near business death scares because of being improperly insured or
Yes.
not properly educated about my insurance. But let's start at top level because a lot of people listening here don't have any business experience whatsoever. They're looking at franchising from like or buying a business out of their corporate job. Top level, like basics, what type of insurance, and let's speak more kind of maybe home service based, like
Sure, sure,
what I
sure.
have experience in. Top level, what kind of insurance do I need to get out of the gate to have an operating business in most of the US?
I laugh because I just wrote a blog article on this and I ended up stopping myself at like 5,500 words
Okay.
because there is no right answer, but we will
Right.
focus on the home service space. Let me actually preface this with something because before I say the specific type of insurance, I want to actually help people understand fundamentally the type of insurance that you're supposed to purchase based on operational exposure. What is it that you inherently do in the business that creates something called operational risk? What is the potential consequence of the thing that you do in the business? And that is fundamentally the most important thing that you can understand. Because if you understand your operational exposure, I am a contractor that gets on roofs. I always use roofs because people can visualize a person on a roof and the amount of exposure and risk associated with that business that they have, right? So they can see it. So I'm getting into the roofing industry. I'm getting into the restoration, right? The wood preservation industry. I'm doing these things. What is my operational exposure? And now you associate insurance with those exposures. And insurance is a tool to finance the risk, the consequence of the exposure. Okay,
Right.
now that that foundation is laid, because you'll talk
Yeah.
to a bad actor in the insurance industry and he'll be with like whoever, I won't name names, but he'll be like, he'll get you some cheap piece of crap policy. And you'll look at the actual description of operations and you'll see like office, not otherwise classified. And you're like, dude,
Yeah.
wait, that doesn't line up with I'm on the roof. Like, shouldn't it say
Right.
roofing? It's crazy. So that said, I'm going to talk about just general liability insurance, right?
Okay.
Everybody's like,
General
oh yeah,
liability.
general, that's easy. I got that, Wade. No, everybody can do that. First things first, general liability insurance, you need to have the correct description of operations. There's this little weird thing called NAICS codes. You and I talked
Mhm.
about this, Ty. Like
Yeah.
Ty's
Yeah.
business, insurance companies, they have a hard time classifying you guys, correct?
Right.
So that is a business classification. There's 30,000 of these class codes.
Yeah.
So we have to
And
navigate
making sure
that.
you're in the right class code
And
is make or break you.
it
Yeah.
can make or break you. So if you're classified as an office, not otherwise classified, NOC, and you're not classified as whatever your operations are, like a roofer, something's wrong. The other thing inside of a general liability policy, it's not just your standard occurrence and aggregate limits. It's what's actually hidden inside that insurance policy. That's the concern. You can go online today and you could get your Geico policy. You could point and click, and it's going to take you 3 minutes. And then you're going to actually get the 300-page policy, which is a contract. It's a binding contract between you and the insurance company. And guess what we're going to do? Well, first of all, you're not going to read it because nobody wants to read that stupid thing. It's insane.
No.
You're right. You know what I'm saying? So now you're on your own because you bought it online, and then you start going through it and you'll start to see this thing called forms and endorsements. And you'll find these crazy exclusions. Subcontractor exclusion, no coverage for subcontractors. You'll see something called a limitation. If you don't collect something or don't do what the insurance company says inside that policy, there's no coverage. You'll see other, I work on HOAs and condominium associations. You'll see an exclusion for that. oh, what is this thing for then? So I'm going to pause at general liability insurance because I could talk for 3 hours,
So
Ty.
just general liability. What does general liability cover me for?
Yeah, it's a great question.
What does it cover me for?
Yeah. So two things. If you hurt somebody else during that course of that job, let's say you sell a product and that product hurts somebody, or you do an installation and because of the installation that you did, it was a poor job and it hurt somebody because the cabinets fell off the wall, the roof collapsed in or something like that.
Yeah.
That's general liability insurance. It also does protects against property damage. So you're at the job and you cause some type of property damage because of what you're doing, right? That's also general liability insurance. Those are the two main things we call
Yeah.
BIPD, bodily
BIPD.
injury and property damage.
Okay. Yeah. Now, what if an employee of mine gets hurt? That doesn't sound like that's covered on that insurance. So how do I protect my employees when they could get hurt specifically in businesses like mine? But heck, somebody could slip and fall coming out of your restaurant. An employee could slip and fall in the restaurant and they get hurt. How do you cover that?
So when you have employees getting hurt, it's called workers' compensation insurance.
Okay.
And workers' compensation is super interesting. It'll pay for all medical expenses. It'll pay for disability. It'll pay for therapy. It'll pay for everything, basically unlimited. It's absolutely unbelievable. There's typically no deductibles, but anything if an employee gets hurt during the course of the job.
Yeah. Yeah. So a lot, I mean, of course, and then many businesses, and I think even a lot of states are going to require for professional businesses to have workers' comp insurance. Is that accurate?
Yeah, it is accurate. And I want to touch on this just briefly. The state will have mandates specific to workers' compensation. It's based on the number of employees that you have.
Right.
1 to 5. I think Alaska is 5 or more. You're required to have work comp. Don't quote me on that. There's one state, Texas, that allows you not to have insurance for workers' compensation. They allow you to opt out as a business owner.
Self-insure?
Exactly.
That sounds expensive.
Exactly, Ty. That's the thing I try to explain to them. Like, it doesn't mean that you're not liable for the injury that happened to your employee. You're just self-insuring. So unless you have $500,000 set aside just in case somebody messes themselves up, just buy the workers' compensation. It is a way to finance the risk. The risk is an employee gets hurt. That's the risk.
Yeah, man, that's you're talking about roofing. My dad owned a roofing business until he retired, and I came from that world. And so I know the cost of workers' comp insurance is super expensive. Talking about like 20% at least is what I recall. Yeah. I also recall how easy it is for people to get hurt. And this is something that a lot of people don't think about in business is that, if you're going to be a business owner specifically in anything kind of, but like I said, even restaurant, people slip, people fall. But in construction services, people get things fall on their head, and you get dumb employees that do dumb things like jump off a roof. I had that. Like why? Why did we do that? Yeah, parkour, right? But yeah, so these and the idea to self-insure, because the state allows you to is just crazy and not good for kind of just like building out a business strategy. So now that we've got. And there's a lot of other types of insurance that we could dig into. But now we've got a good understanding of, like, I think that general liability, workers' comp, auto, additionally, those are like your big three that any business, specifically home service business, are going to need to have. You understand what these insurances are, right? And then, but I'm thinking about starting a business and I'm wanting to, like, the franchisor, they send me an FDD.
Sure.
How can I understand by just looking at that what the insurance requirements are? How do I figure all this out?
Ideally, the franchisor is going to tee you up, and they're actually going to give that to you, and they're going to specifically tell you, "Hey, these are the insurance requirements that we have." If not, you want to ask the specific question: "Can you show me where in the FDD the insurance requirements exist?" Usually, it's in the item 8. There's a few things you want to look at as like somebody looking into a franchise system. One is the item 7, and there's going to be a bunch of stuff in that item 7, right? But one of them is there is a line item for estimated initial upfront expenses for insurance. And that's important to understand. And that will vary across the entire country. So getting some type of baseline is also important. In the home service space, it can vary drastically from 1 to like 3 to 4% of gross revenue. So really factor that into your consideration of a franchise system. The next thing is the item 8. The item 8 should outline the insurance requirements, and it should be pretty dialed in. And if it's not the item 8, then they'll defer to some type of 1 page, 2 pager in the ops manual. And so just make sure you're asking, hey, is in the FDD or is in the ops manual? Could you please send me over the 1 pager so I understand the insurance requirements? And then you can go and talk to a broker that specializes in your space.
Yeah. Well, I love that, the call out to item 7, that's our initial startup cost, and looking what that upfront is. And then to your point, our franchise, we have locations from Oklahoma to Florida. And you talk about auto insurance, right? Like auto is significantly different
Yes.
in cost in Oklahoma versus in Florida. Like we're in 2 different climates. They've got a whole different thing going on, insurance. And so you have to look deeper than just those numbers on there, because it is going to be really kind of driven. The cost should be driven by the state that you're in and what the
Yep.
insurance is in that state. And then digging into that item 8, where it should be outlined. And I love your suggestion of, if it's not, ask, because you need to understand that. What are the insurance requirements? Because if you're going to build out a pro forma, you're going to need to include this, because in-home service space, you're talking about having, going back to that workers' comp, you're talking about something maybe as low as 5-6% of your revenue is
Hmm.
going to go to, or no, of your payroll is going to
Payroll.
go to insurance, to 20.
Yeah.
Like that's a
Massive
lot of
range.
money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money. That's a huge range, and you need to understand that before you sign on the line as you're building out that pro forma.
Well, and something else to consider too in the home service space too is some of these home service concepts have revenue directly associated with how many trucks or vans that you have on out there, and
Yep.
so it's really important to understand the unit economics of each individual vehicle and what the actual insurance costs associated with them are. I've had conversations, Ty, where they come to me, and it's pretty sad to be honest with you, because these franchise concepts, they get up and running, they were good in theory, but then they realize that the actual economics just don't make sense, and insurance can be one of those things that just destroys the overall profit of it, because like you said, Ty, insurance in Florida, 8 grand a vehicle. I mean,
Yeah.
it's no joke. Like it's insane. And so the scalability of that franchise concept is not ideal across the entire country. And so just make sure that you understand, like, what does it mean to actually insure a vehicle across the entire country? Is that a major factor in generating revenue in this franchise concept, and kind of go from there?
Yeah, man, I'll just kind of give case in point, like just like crazy things. So when we launched our franchise, small footprint home service business, and we really prided ourselves on the fact that we could run this business out of a Kia Soul. It was
Yeah.
really cool, and it looked really neat on the internet, and it was kind of a source of pride, because I love the idea of having something small footprint. And when we got to Florida and we did that,
Oh, jeez.
Florida killed us on the Kia Soul. And it was like, and the guy I was working with, who had another business, this was a vertical. He had another business where he had Toyota Tundras insured. He was like, Ty, this is double my Toyota Tundra insurance cost.
Whoa.
It's crazy, with the same provider,
Yeah.
big name, everybody knows them. So it was like, and there was a bunch of things around that. Technically it's a passenger vehicle. And
Yeah.
so,
Wow.
are you carrying people around with it? What's our, and then
Yes. Not
there
considered a
was an issue
service
around
vehicle.
the Kia Soul being able to be the theft issues with the Kia Soul.
Oh
Like
my
there was
God.
all these things, and like the insurance, the guy was like, Ty, I didn't plan on this.
Yeah. No.
Can we provide for an alternative? We ended up like completely switching, uh
Just cause.
just cause we're like, well, and then we kind of got quotes on small and mid-size pickups to see, well, in a home service, the insurance companies like those, and those still more expensive than Oklahoma, was half of what the little Kia
Wow.
Soul was. And
Huge.
so as a business model, we just completely changed, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
To meet that, because to your point, it was really impacting whether or not the unit economics of this business was going to make sense
Bizarre.
in that.
Yeah. 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 Definitely.
So okay, I'm a candidate, and I'm going through the process. What types of questions should I be asking? I'm doing I'm doing like discovery calls, and I'm on a video call with some franchise developer, and he's telling me how awesome the brand is. But I need to go deeper to understand what my expenses are going to be, how much money, because all businesses, in my belief system, like generally businesses can be successful if they understand what their risk is and what the capital it is to make the money. And so I'm trying to figure this stuff out. What types of questions should I be asking that franchisor, that friend development person about insurance before I sign up?
Oh, that's a good question. I'm not sure if sorry, Fran Dev people. I don't know if the Fran Dev people are going to have much answers for the potential prospective franchisees, to be honest with you. I've had a lot. The great people, they want to sell you a franchise, to be honest.
Right.
Get the ops person on the phone, get somebody in the C-suite on the phone, like really understand the actual risk, the exposure that exists
Yeah.
within the franchise. I would ask if I was a potential prospect and I'm looking for a business in franchising, I'm like, hey, what are some common lawsuits that are happening, or what are some common issues that are happening with the franchisees as it concerns the consumers of your guys' products and or services? And getting an idea of what that looks like. Are there currently any outstanding litigation? Are there currently, like, what are some of the business risks that you're assuming as a business owner? What are some of the reasons why insurance would actually be triggered due to something that we're doing in this business? And that's interesting to me because first, we want to make sure insurance is proactive. We don't want to be reactive, but at the same time, we want to understand what are real world scenarios in your franchise business? What are real world scenarios that you guys are signing up for? There are certain home service brands, Ty, I will tell you, have no claims whatsoever from customers or consumers. There are other brands, I'm seeing them on the monthly all the time,
Yep.
and it's consistent. And there's a lot of problems with that. It's like, oh, well, yeah, it's just a part of doing business. Well, here's what happens to you guys. You've probably been through this, Ty. I've been through this, but as a business owner, it actually is a complete distraction. The moment you have a really disgruntled a customer,
Oh
you go through
man.
that process. It's emotionally draining on you. It's a massive distraction. You're pulled away from the business, and what you should be doing is growing the business, driving sales, driving revenue, developing your operations, developing your systems, making it as profitable as possible. And this is a drain. And so look for opportunities that really limit the number of consumer complaints due to your product and or service, and also any type of lawsuits or just bad product, bad service that results in some type of damage done to a customer's home or bodily injury. Usually it's damage done to a customer's home of some sort or commercial.
Man, I think that's such a great question to ask, because anybody, so if you're asking that question, any good operator can clearly speak to risk, right? Like we can clearly say, hey, you do run a risk. One, and I'll speak to kind of businesses I'm very familiar with. You have people out driving vehicles.
Yeah.
And we all know that accidents happen. And so you are very likely in your time as a business owner to have a vehicle stolen, to have somebody get hit, to have somebody hit somebody, to have one of our
Yep.
people hit somebody. Like first and foremost, like that is very, very likely. And so that's huge. And so, but somebody being able to communicate, you're like, your people are going to be on a ladder. They just got to do a little research to know that the number one cause of death in construction is fall from 6 feet or less.
That's
Right.
it. Nothing.
Right. And so I'm not saying that anybody's going to die, but I am going to say that like that is your biggest risk. Uh, is all, like, so these are things. And if a franchise, and this is any time where you ask a franchise to be honest and tell me what could go wrong. And if they kind of blow off what can go wrong and kind of like make light of it, I think that's a red flag.
Yeah.
Uh, because, business ownership is not for the faint of heart,
No
and somebody should tell you what can go wrong, because everything that you do, there is legal uh,
implication.
risk, right? And so you have to really take that into consideration. And your people, I've got friends that have a home cleaning business, house cleaning business, right? And people steal things.
Yep.
People steal things. I hate it. It sucks. But you will have an employee in the lifetime of your business ownership that will do something stupid,
Yep.
and there will be a cost associated with it. And
Yep.
you hope that you're insured for it, whether that's somebody leaving a door unlocked or somebody using the wrong extension cord that causes a fire, whatever that is. You
Yeah.
hope you're properly insured for it.
And I think kind of that's one of the most important things to take away from this is that being proactive with making sure that we're financing risk appropriately through buying the proper insurance products actually in the end protects the customer. Because if something happens, right, this is typically negligence, meaning that it was a mistake, you messed up, so it was accident. It's not intentional. At the
Right.
end of the day, you want to take care of that customer. Why? Why is that so important? Because the customer leaves reviews, because the customer actually speaks, they talk to everybody. And then you're part of a franchise, you're part of a national franchise, you have a brand to protect. And so insurance, when done correctly, can jump in there, save the day, protect the customer, pay for whatever it is, the expenses, protect your business. Now, I mean, that's why insurance, when it's done correctly, it's such a critical to strategic kind of foundation that you're building for your business to be able to kind of scale, right? You're building this foundation. And you can rest, kind of at night, sleep well at night, knowing that your 200, 300, $500,000 investment is
Hmm.
being protected when insurance is done correctly. And not only the money, but the sweat equity, right? The effort. You guys are mortgaging your homes, you're maxing out credit cards, you're taking time away, you're working 10 to 14-hour days,
Yeah.
you're traveling the weekends. Like, you want all that to crash down just because you didn't want to buy a $1,000 annual insurance policy? Like
Right.
those.
Yeah.
Those are the type of conversations I have with guys sometimes. Though I got to shake them out of this mindset of like, I don't want to pay $500. I'm like, why?
Yeah. Yeah. So we talked about asking, but I think probably one of the more, so you ask the franchisor, and like you said,
Yeah,
kind of want to dig in. Hopefully they can kind of really help you understand that. But probably the most important person to talk to is going to be another franchisee through validation.
yeah, sure.
Uh, Specifically one that lives ideally in your same state, around insurance. So kind of, what question, if I'm calling and, I'm in here in Oklahoma, so I'm going to call another franchise owner. What questions do I want to ask that other franchise owner during validation calls around insurance or risk? More importantly, around risk.
Yeah, you can certainly ask a few questions about insurance. And again, it's only relevant if they are close. Insurance rates change all the way down to a zip code. So just be aware of that. I have franchisee talking in Florida and they're talking to some guy in Utah and then they come to complain to the broker. Why aren't the insurance rates the same as this guy? And it's like, dude, there's a reason for that.
Yeah.
But more importantly about risk. And so the question becomes like, hey, what are some of the experiences or circumstances that you've had with some of your guys as consumers where they've actually either filed a lawsuit against you or complained, or you've caused
Yeah.
some type of damage due to the product or service that we are selling in that franchise brand? Like, that's the question that you want to understand. I've seen it. I've seen it many, many times. Sometimes it's just, it's negligence. Sometimes it's faulty workmanship. Sometimes it's the business that you're in. And as a result, there's a lot of risk.
Yeah, man. So validation is such an important part of this whole process. And this is something I think, you look at buying a business versus buying a franchise. This is probably one of the, outside of having the FDD and having these clear line sight to operational expectations, you have this validation process that you can go through, and you can call dozens or even hundreds in some brands, other people who are doing this, and get all the good and all the bad. I teased this in my intro, because I talked about growing up in a roofing business, and I have a very painful memory. It is very, very vivid because I remember where I was at the moment it happened. I don't want to make this like 9/11, but for me and my own personal business, it was so painful.
Yeah.
I was at the gym, and I don't normally take phone calls at the gym, but I saw my wife had called me 3 times in a row. And so I'm wondering, of course, this is an emergency. And so I answer the phone, and she tells me that we just had, and it's on Thursday, payroll's on Friday. We
Mm.
just had $50,000
Oh,
uh, popped out of our account. Uh, and it was because of a workers' comp issue with a subcontractor whose certificate of insurance,
correct.
COI, did not check out. And
Yes.
it was a bad COI. It had been our number. It's a roofing business. And it they had not, they didn't have workers'
Yeah, they
comp
didn't have
insurance for
insurance.
themselves.
That's it.
So then I had to, as
You're paying for
the
it.
policyholder, I had to pay for their workers' comp
Yeah.
at that 20% or 21% rate. And
Yes.
so like I watched a whole year's worth of profits evaporate
Gone.
in a morning,
Incredible.
before I had breakfast.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, such an important deal when you think about many businesses, specifically in home service,
100%.
are using subcontracted labor. And
Yes.
it's a great business strategy. But let's talk about how serious that is,
Yes.
to make sure that the business you're looking into really understands this and has a strategy to protect you.
Yeah, I'll tee up with a perfect question for somebody looking into a franchise business. First, understanding their business model. Hey, are you guys a W-2 or 1099 business model, right? They're going to
Yeah.
tell you out of the gate. And if they don't have a clear, definitive answer, you may want to kind of pry a little bit harder. I've talked to many franchise brands. Well, it's up to the franchisee. A little bit dangerous, to be honest. A franchise system is a business in a box intentionally. This is how you make money. This is exactly what you do. You should have a W-2, blah, 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 or you should have a 1099, and this is why. However, let's say we hypothetically go down this 1099 path as an example. The next follow-up question I would ask is, how do you effectively, as a franchisee, how do I effectively transfer risk? What are your systems in place today that I can use to transfer risk away from my business to the 1099? Because that's the whole intention, Ty. We use 1099s because they're doing all the things. Okay.
That's right.
What are you doing then? Guess what happens? The franchisor is going to look at you. They're going to give you a silly smile and they're going to kind of chuckle and like, oh, that's a good question. And they don't have an answer for you, unfortunately. And that's where we have to come in and help these guys. Some do, maybe some large or very sophisticated brands are supposed to have specific protocols to transfer risk. What does that mean? You're supposed to have an agreement in place with those subcontractors, transferring your risk to them. Why? Because you are the one as a franchisee with the contract with that customer, homeowner or commercial. So you're on the hook. First and foremost, you're on the hook. And that's why it's important to have an agreement with that subcontractor. Number two, that agreement is going to stipulate the insurance requirements for that sub. If that doesn't exist, guess what? Sub couldn't care less. He's going to tell you to pound sand when something happens, when the consumer gets pissed off, right? He's like, he actually go AWOL. It happens every single time. They actually just don't respond to you, right, Ty? Like
That's right. That's right.
Yep. You'll never hear from the guy again. So that's number two. Number three, always hire a subcontractor that has some type of entity. That's like a really good rule of thumb. LLC, something like that. It means they've gone through some type of effort. However, 50% of subs, I'm making up a number, but 50% of subs don't have anything. No business, day labor work, no entity, no insurance, and they create exposure that you have to pay for. And that's ultimately what's happening here, Ty. And that's why not only from a workers' compensation standpoint, but also from a liability standpoint, you will pay for all the work that they're doing. Because guess what? If you don't verify that they have their own insurance, collect that document, follow up every single project, that insurance company is like, yeah, you're paying for all that stuff because we can't prove that this guy had the coverage. That's the idea. We can't transfer risk.
Yeah, and I've heard so many business owners say, well, I'm not subcontracting to a business. It's just 1099 employee, which there's a whole lot of other implications with that statement that you want to stay away from tax exposure and all kinds of other legal things. But from an insurance, you have, like if you have workers' comp, you're responsible for that now.
Yes.
And you're on the hook for that. And all the fine print that you didn't read, at least in my circumstance and almost everybody's, the fine print that I didn't read was that when they decided I owed them, they could just hit my account for it.
Yeah.
Like
they'll take
they weren't waiting on my check. I didn't get to negotiate with them. They just took the money.
No, because there's something called a rate for your exposure. So the exposure on a workers' compensation policy is twofold. It's actually payroll for W-2 employees. Oh, but wait, it's a 1099. They're blah, blah, blah. It's on their own. It's like, no. That doesn't work in insurance. That's a tax implication, like you mentioning, Ty. For the 1099 for workers' compensation, they're actually going to associate your subcontractor expenses as well for any uninsured subcontractor. And there's a rate associated with the per 100 of payroll or per 100 of subcontractor expenses. And that rate, like as you were mentioning, he kept saying 5% or 20%. Roofing is 20% in some states. Other states it's
Yeah.
less.
Oklahoma, yeah.
Right? In home services, it could range from anywhere from, one, like for janitorial, all the way up to
Mhm.
20% for roofing, stuff like that. And you're on the hook, man. That's it. Because the insurance company is coming in after the 12 months and retroactively assessing the prior 12 months. They're saying, we already covered the exposure.
Mhm.
Therefore, you owe us money because we would have picked up any injury done to an uninsured 1099 or a
Yeah.
W-2 employee.
Yeah. No, it's such like, and I could go on and on and
For
on as a
sure.
business owner and stories about realizing I had the wrong insurance. And these things are so important for realizing that I got a trailer stolen and that my trailer, when it was parked, was not covered because I didn't have a policy to cover my trailer with all of the tools in it.
Yes.
Uh, from that situation to all kinds of, there's so many other
Yeah.
things in insurance, and so it's a really critical thing. And just kind of like, let's just speak about the two ways that companies like yours help franchisees out and franchisors. So let's start with the franchisee. If I'm looking at a franchise and I'm wanting to kind of understand what the cost, get an estimate.
Yeah.
Can I get that before I ever even sign up?
You can totally get that. And you can ask the franchisor if they have a preferred insurance broker that helps them.
Yeah.
And that's a great way to go about getting something like that, because if that preferred broker is working with 50 other franchisees, they're going to have pretty good data and they can just share with you.
Yep.
Don't hold that broker accountable for the number that they give you. Like if you were to come to my business, I would give you a nice range and say,
Mhm.
look, it's highly dependent on where specifically it's at, the revenue you start with, the number of vehicles, right? Employees, payrolls. So there's a lot of different variables there, but you can certainly ask that number. And usually the item 7, if done correctly, right, and has that assessment or audit done, we try to give you a nice, good range for that item 7 initial
Yeah.
upfront expenses, which can be annualized, to be able to kind of figure out what that range is.
Yeah, and I just kind of add to that, that if you're working with a franchise that kind of, this is a way to understand how thoughtful the franchisor has been in their
Yes.
business model, is because, specifically going back to this home service space, you understand the legal, the risk, right? We have employees, they're handling things that could hurt them, they're doing things that could hurt them, and we're working on the, like, 500,000 or $1 million properties. Like, we understand this. And
Yes.
so when you're working with a franchisor that understands that, you know, in the best situation, they've already thought through this and they've got somebody they can get you connected with. Let's talk about kind of going that next level with that subcontractor. How can I find out whether or not the franchisor I'm talking to is got this part figured out? If they do say, hey, this is a 1099 business, you're going to get 1099s. What type of company do I want to make sure they're working with, and what's kind of the services that company like Rikor is
Yeah.
offering the
Sure.
franchisee and franchisor?
Yeah, so kind of goes back to some of those initial questions, right? Do they have a system set up in place already, an SOP, whatever you want to call it, that makes sure that every single franchisee is doing X, Y, and Z, right? It should be dialed in. It should not be left up to the franchisee to figure out how to effectively transfer risk. Nobody knows how to do that when they're starting their business. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Right. Yeah, you're just trying to figure out how to make it. You don't need to also figure
yes.
out insurance business,
No.
for sure.
So Mr. Franchisor, give me the packet, give me the SOP, give me the contract, the subcontractor agreement. Oh, and by the way, how should we monitor subcontractor insurance? Like, is that an Excel spreadsheet or a Google thing? Am I just emailing people, like text messaging these guys? Franchisor should say, no, 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 it's a waste of time. You should be focused on growing your business. By the way, we partner with a third party that offers a solution that you can just plug into, and it's going to collect all this information on your behalf. Just plug in the subcontractor email. It's going to associate with the insurance requirements. It's all dialed in for you. I'll take it one step further, real quick, Ty. It's one thing to monitor an effective and expiration date of an insurance policy, which oftentimes these kind of like freemium third-party softwares do. It's, oh yeah, we're tracking it. I'm like, well, tell me more about how you're tracking it. Well, we have the expiration date here. Like, well, what about the insurance? We don't know about the insurance. We just know the expiration date is coming up. you want to understand what type of insurance they have, what kind of limits they have, what type of
Yeah.
policy they have, if there's any issues with it, limitations, exclusions. And oftentimes when we say monitor subcontractor insurance, what oftentimes franchisors and franchisees think it's like, oh, we'll just collect general liability insurance. Well, what about workers' compensation?
Yeah. That's
We just talked about it. You got to
right.
verify that you're collecting both liability and workers' compensation among possibly other coverages too.
Yeah, man, that's so good. And that is such like I said, like I know at the outset, like, right, like you think insurance, oh, how boring. But if you're thinking about owning a business, whether you're a startup, whether you're buying a business, whether you're buying a franchise, you have to understand what your legal your risk is going to be, what your exposure is going to be, what that cost is going to be, and then you
Yes.
got to build it in your model because it's going to impact pricing, it's going to impact what you pay your people. It has so many different things that you just really need to understand it. And you really need to understand it in the beginning when you're building out a pro
Yeah.
forma, not when you get hit like I did. And it's really great to know that myself and other franchisees can work with companies like yours to make sure they don't wake up like I did and have trauma about going to the gym. Going to the gym's hard enough. We don't need to worry about have that
For sure.
experience. Man, as we wrap up here, people are listening. They're thinking about buying a business. They're thinking about buying a franchise. What's one piece of advice you'd give one of these searchers out there before they sign on that dotted line?
Okay. I'm a business owner as well. I'm an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
I've been in the insurance space for 20 years. Starting my own business from scratch is the worst possible experience you can imagine. And what I
yeah,
mean by that is you're learning everything as you go. I've developed our own systems. We have our own playbook. We have our own operating manual. Ty, you've gone through it, right? Where
right.
now my operating manual, I have, I think, 180, 190 different independent systems. This is the guidebook,
Yeah,
the operating manual. That's why franchising is so awesome.
that's it, man.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's it. Franchising is incredible because you don't have to go through all of that pain, that experience that somebody else has, that the operator has already done. It's just
Mhm.
like a book. Books are cheat codes, guys. Like when I read books, I'm looking at this book and this is 10 years in the making, and some dude has consolidated it in 300 pages, and I get to steal all of that information. It's the exact same thing with the playbook that the franchisors are providing to you, the operating manual, 400 to 600 pages of an operating manual. It's a playbook for success. Are you kidding me, dude? It's a freaking cheat code, man. It's not
Yeah.
that, you can't get better.
You can't get that in anything else. Whether like, you buy a business, you get a dusty old 3-ring binder and a floppy disk that some guy put together in
Maybe.
1998.
Yes.
It's like you said, it's a cheat code. Wade, if somebody's listening to this right now, whether they're a franchisor, they're a franchisee, or somebody else is just curious, how do they get connected with you and Rikor to get your help in the insurance space?
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. Website is protectmyfranchise.com. Pretty easy.
Protectmyfranchise.com. Love it.
Yeah. Yes. I
Yeah.
was shocked when that was available. I was like, oh, cool. Bye.
Yeah. All right, man. Thanks so much for your time today. We really appreciate your insights and your experience, Wade. Thanks, man.
Awesome, man. Thanks so much.
Thanks for listening to the show. Make sure you hit the follow button in your podcast app so you never miss an episode. And if you're watching this on YouTube, subscribe before you go. You can also connect with me personally on LinkedIn. Just search Ty McBride. Later.